All right, so let's dive in. We've got some fascinating economic data to unpack today.
Yeah, lots to cover.
And then we're going to explore this really interesting competition heating up in the AI space.
It's a very dynamic landscape. Yeah, lots going on.
We're working from this really cool market analysis video that you sent me, and it highlights some pretty fascinating trends.
Yeah, I was excited to dig in.
Let's start with the U.S. economy.
Sounds good.
So the market's had a little bit of a dip today with the NASDAQ down 0.56% and the S&P 500 down 0.33%.
Yeah,
But
kind of a down day.
the economic data actually tells a different story.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's kind of like a push and pull right now.
Okay.
The ADP employment report came out today, and wow, 233,000 private sector jobs added in October.
Yeah.
That's way more than anyone expected. Highest we've seen since July.
I was blown away by that number.
Yeah.
But here's the weird thing.
Yeah.
Even with all those new jobs, wage growth is actually slowing down.
Yeah. A little counterintuitive, right?
Mm.
It might be a sign that more people are entering the workforce, which could ease some of that pressure on wages, and that could support the soft landing narrative that we've all been hearing about.
So a soft landing meaning that...
Instead of a recession.
Right, instead of like this big crash.
Yeah, it kind of cools off gently.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also have the third quarter GDP numbers, which came in at 2.8% growth, which is slightly lower than the previous quarter, but it's still a really solid number.
Absolutely. And when you look under the hood, you see really interesting details.
Okay.
Consumer spending was really strong,
Okay.
especially in the auto sector.
Okay.
Exports, federal spending also contributed to the growth.
Okay, what about investments?
Yeah.
The video mentioned a slowdown.
Yeah, particularly in the non-residential and residential sectors.
What does that tell? I mean, does that mean that businesses are starting to get nervous?
It's a data point to watch. It actually connects to something that we saw in Google's recent earnings report.
Okay.
Their capital expenditures on things like chips and data centers, it didn't really budge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder if this is a sign of broader caution in the tech industry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe not all systems go in tech land.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the video did mention that equipment investment was up by 11.1%.
Yeah, a very healthy growth.
Which is a pretty good sign.
Yeah, signals some level of confidence.
Okay, so a little bit of mixed messages.
Yeah, I think so.
Businesses might be holding back in some investments, but still putting money in areas where they see, some quick return.
Makes sense.
So the economic picture is a little bit of a puzzle.
Yeah.
But overall, it seems like the U.S. economy is kind of defying the doomsayers.
For now, yeah.
Now let's switch gears
Okay.
and talk about this AI chip race that's really starting to heat up.
Oh, yeah. Things are getting intense.
Yeah.
It's like a three-way battle shaping up between OpenAI, ARM, and Nvidia. Wow.
All vying for control of this crucial piece of the AI puzzle.
Yeah.
And the moves they're making are pretty bold.
So the video mentioned that OpenAI is teaming up with Broadcom to develop this new inference chip.
Yes.
And they're potentially even getting production help from TSMC.
That's right.
And get this.
Yeah.
There's talk that OpenAI is maybe going to build their own chip factory at some point in the future.
If they pull that off, that would be huge.
That would be insane.
Inference chips are absolutely essential for running AI applications.
Right.
And that market is just exploding right now.
Yeah.
So OpenAI is kind of playing the long game here.
Wow.
They're trying to make sure they have control over this critical component of the entire AI ecosystem.
It's interesting to see how strategic they're being.
Yeah.
But what about ARM?
Well,
they seem to be kind of quietly gaining ground, thanks in part to the vision of this guy, SoftBank CEO Masayoshi's son.
Yeah, Son's a fascinating character.
Yeah. He's made it clear that he wants to challenge Nvidia's dominance.
Interesting.
And he's betting big on ARM technology. He envisions it as kind of the heart of future data centers.
Okay.
He's also making some power plays. He's investing heavily in OpenAI.
Right.
And he's in this legal battle with Qualcomm.
Right, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how ARM is kind of expanding beyond their traditional stronghold.
Right. They're not just about mobile phones anymore.
Yeah.
They're already powering Apple's M-series chips.
Right.
Showing up in Microsoft's new AI PCs.
So do you think they have a real shot at dethroning Nvidia?
It's possible, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
The outcome of that Qualcomm lawsuit is going to be a major factor.
Right.
Investors are going to be watching closely to see if ARM shifts its business model at all, maybe even invests in its own chip factories.
Wow, so much intrigue.
Yeah, lots to watch.
So we've got this surprisingly strong U.S. economy.
Right?
And this super fascinating AI chip race that's only getting more intense.
Yeah, definitely heating up.
Now, let's shift gears again
Okay.
and dive into the latest earnings reports from Microsoft and Meta.
All right.
Both companies exceeding expectations on both revenue and earnings per share.
Strong quarters.
Yeah, really strong.
Yeah.
But the market's reaction was a little bit muted.
A little bit, yeah, especially for Microsoft.
Especially for Microsoft.
Yeah.
So their Azure cloud revenue grew by an impressive 33%.
33%, yeah.
But AI only contributed 12 percentage points to that growth.
Which is still a big chunk.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Why wasn't Wall Street more excited?
Well, it seems like they were expecting even more from Azure.
Oh, okay.
Especially after seeing Google Cloud's 35% growth.
Okay, so they're comparing it to Google.
Exactly.
And also, Microsoft's guidance for future growth was a little underwhelming.
Yeah, which might have dampened some enthusiasm.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, what about Meta?
Oh.
They had a really good quarter with strong ad revenue and improved margins.
Yeah, definitely.
But their Reality Labs division, which is their kind of metaverse division,
Right.
had lower than expected revenue.
Yeah.
And user growth. Does that signal trouble for their metaverse ambitions?
It's definitely a bump in the road.
Yeah.
And the stock took a hit because of it.
Okay.
But here's what's interesting. Meta seems to be kind of shifting their focus.
Okay.
They're talking more about product refinement,
Okay.
highlighting the potential of AI agents as a future growth driver.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're not abandoning the metaverse?
Not necessarily.
They're just being more pragmatic about the timeline.
Yeah, and emphasizing other areas where they see strong potential.
Yeah.
They're playing the long game.
Right, which is smart.
Just like OpenAI with their chip strategy.
It's so interesting to see how all these companies are positioning themselves.
It really is.
While the market may not be fully convinced,
Yeah.
they're both making these huge investments in AI
Yeah.
and really positioning themselves for a future where AI is just, it's everywhere. This is all so fascinating.
Yeah, exciting times.
I'm starting to see all these connections between these trends.
Yeah, me too.
But before we go any further,
Okay.
let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the economic surprises and the AI race. Don't go anywhere.
See you in a minute. Welcome back.
So it's really amazing to see how all these seemingly separate areas, the overall economy, tech advancements, even individual company strategies, they're all intertwined.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating how it all connects, especially when you think about those cloud growth numbers we were just talking about from Microsoft and Google.
Right.
Makes you realize those two are really going head to head in this AI space.
Yeah, and it makes sense why investors are so focused on those cloud figures, right? Because the cloud is becoming the backbone of all this AI development and deployment.
Absolutely. If you want to be a major player in AI, you have to have the cloud infrastructure.
You gotta have the computing power, the data storage, the accessibility that developers need.
It's like they're building the digital arenas where these AI games are being played.
I like that analogy. And both Microsoft and Google are going all in.
Yeah, they're spending billions on research and development.
Yeah, and it's paying off. I mean, you see it in the products and services they're coming out with.
Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI has given them a real edge, and their Azure platform is really becoming a magnet for AI developers.
But Google is no slouch either, right?
Yeah.
They've got some really powerful AI capabilities.
Oh, absolutely, especially with their deep learning algorithms.
Right.
And their access to massive amounts of data.
Right, it's like a real battle of the titans.
It is.
Speaking of Google, you know what I found interesting in their earnings report?
What's that?
Their capital expenditures related to chips and data centers were flat.
Oh, interesting.
Does that surprise you? I mean, could this be a sign that they're maybe tapping the brakes a little bit on those investments?
It's possible. I mean, maybe they're shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
becoming more strategic with how they're spending their money.
Right, because they're a smart company.
They are. Maybe they're focusing more on optimizing their existing infrastructure instead of just pouring money into massive new projects.
Makes sense.
Or maybe they're just waiting for the next generation of AI chips to hit the market before they make any really big commitments.
You wouldn't want to jump in too early and end up with outdated tech.
Exactly, especially in a field that's moving as fast as AI.
But remember, we also saw that really healthy growth in equipment investment overall. that 11.1% jump.
Right. So it's not like businesses are hitting the panic button or anything.
Right.
It suggests that while some areas might be cooling down, there are still plenty of companies out there that are willing to invest in tools and technologies where they see a clear benefit.
So maybe not a full-blown slowdown, but more of a strategic recalibration.
I think that's a good way to put it.
And then it's not just the big tech companies that are driving all this AI innovation.
Oh, absolutely not. There are tons of startups and smaller companies out there that are doing some really amazing things.
It's like that Cambrian explosion of AI innovation.
I love that analogy.
It's a really exciting time to be following this space.
It is. It reminds me a lot of the early days of the internet.
Oh yeah, where nobody knew exactly where things were headed.
But there's this incredible sense of possibility.
Of potential, and that's what I'm sensing now with AI.
Yeah, it's that same kind of energy.
And just like the internet, revolutionized the way we communicate and access information.
AI has the potential to transform virtually every industry.
It really does. It's mind-blowing.
It is.
Okay, let's bring it back to the economic data for a moment.
Okay.
We talked about the surprising strength of the U.S. economy despite those rising interest rates.
Right. Those employment numbers and the GDP figures were really encouraging.
Strong job growth, solid consumer spending. It seems like things are humming along.
Yeah, I mean, the economy has definitely shown remarkable resilience, especially when you consider all the global headwinds we've been facing.
Yeah, like geopolitical tensions, supply chain issues.
Yeah. Inflation, it's a really complex landscape out there.
So maybe not all sunshine and roses.
Oh, there are always challenges.
Right.
But I think the U.S. economy has demonstrated a really impressive ability to adapt and navigate through these tough times.
That's good to hear.
The fundamentals are still strong.
But one thing that keeps popping into my mind is the impact of all this AI on the job market.
Yeah,
It's a topic that generates a lot of anxiety.
understandably so.
People are worried about robots taking their jobs.
Right. And those concerns are valid.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, while it's true that AI will probably automate some tasks, especially those that are repetitive or routine, I think it's important to remember that technological advancements have always disrupted the job market. It's always been this way. The key is adaptation.
Okay.
We need to focus on developing those skills that are uniquely human, things that AI can't easily replicate.
So it's not just about learning how to code or build robots.
No, it's about things like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, communication, emotional intelligence.
Those are the things that are going to set us apart in this AI-driven world.
Exactly. It's not about humans versus machines. It's about humans and machines working together
I like that.
to create a better future.
Yeah, it's almost like AI is pushing us to become even more human,
I think you're right.
to really double down on those qualities that make us special.
It's a really interesting way to look at it.
Instead of fearing AI, maybe we should embrace it
As a tool,
as a tool that can augment our ability.
help us achieve even greater things.
It's a fascinating and challenging time to be alive, that's for sure.
It is. There's no doubt about that.
We're witnessing a technological revolution,
Happening at warp speed.
and the economic landscape is constantly shifting.
But like we said, we have the power to shape the future.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay, I like it.
What skills or knowledge are you focusing on developing to thrive in this rapidly evolving world? We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our exploration of these economic surprises and the AI race. Stay tuned. We're back for the final part of our deep dive. Really been exploring some interesting stuff.
Yeah, quite a journey through the economic data and this whole evolving AI landscape.
You know, one thing that really stuck with me is that strategic importance of the cloud in this whole AI race.
Oh, yeah, it's like the central battleground for all the big tech players.
Right, because it's the foundation. It's where it all happens, all that massive computing power, the data storage.
Accessibility developers need.
And we saw how crucial it is in those earnings reports from Microsoft and Google, both seeing huge growth in their cloud revenue, AI playing a key role.
And it's not just about the raw power. It's the whole ecosystem they're building around it. The software tools, the platforms.
Creating these one-stop shops for AI developers.
Exactly, giving them everything they need to innovate.
It's incredible how fast this whole ecosystem is evolving.
It's like this self-reinforcing cycle. Every advancement fuels more growth and development.
And it's not just in tech. We're seeing AI applications popping up everywhere.
Healthcare, finance, manufacturing, you name it.
It's truly transformative. The potential is immense.
Definitely has the power to revolutionize the way we live and work.
And speaking of revolutionize, the video we've been discussing also touched on some concerns people have about AI. especially its impact on jobs.
Right, the potential for automation, especially for tasks that are repetitive or routine.
Those concerns are definitely valid.
But it's important to remember that technology has always disrupted the job market.
Mhm.
The key is how we adapt.
So it's not about fearing those changes, it's about being prepared.
Exactly. And focusing on those uniquely human skills, things that AI can't replicate.
So not just coding or building robots, but critical thinking, creativity.
Problem solving, communication, emotional intelligence.
It's almost like AI is pushing us to be more human.
To really hone those qualities that make us unique.
We need to embrace that challenge. Use AI as a tool to augment our abilities.
And work together, humans and machines, to create a better future.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground.
From that surprisingly strong U.S. economy to this incredible AI race.
And those profound implications for the future of work and even society itself.
Hopefully this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
Encouraged you to explore these topics further.
The future isn't something that just happens to us.
It's something we create.
So keep learning, keep exploring, keep pushing those boundaries.
Absolutely stay curious and stay informed.
Until next time.